Feeling like a shark in a shrimp tank. Big fish, small pond in the shrimp tank.
Welcome everybody to another episode of the Central Pennsylvania Shrimp Tank, here from the new studio in Dillsburg, Pennsylvania, while we are at our stay-at-home orders. I'm your host, Nathan Imboden, and we are doing our series here. We're calling it In the Crosshairs of Corona because it's relevant with what we're going through right now. Look, you can find a full replay of all of these broadcasts on our website at shrimptankpodcast.com/CentralPA. Also, be sure to find us on your favorite podcast app, whether it's Apple Podcast, Spotify, Google Play, wherever. Click that subscribe button to stay up to date, and be sure to like our Facebook page as we push out timely updates and information on all our Central Pennsylvania entrepreneurs. And today we have a great guest because he's got multi-perspective. So we're going to actually hit on a couple topics. So he's going to talk about the firm he's a part of. By the way, his name's Andrew Rusniak. He's a returning guest. He is an attorney and partner at McNeese, Wallace & Nurick. And he's going to talk a little bit about what the law firm has had to deal with in this stay-at-home order and our state telling us we have to shut down. They do non-essential versus essential, all that fun stuff. But then we're going to take an opportunity to talk about some of the relevant planning opportunities and things that we should really be thinking about in times of crisis. And as we go through these fear-based times, it does tend to present opportunities as we're thinking through, well, what happens if I got sick, or what happens if a family member got sick, or different things. So we're going to cover a couple things. So it's going to be a great episode. We're going to get some insight into what McNeese is dealing with today, but also give you some valuable feedback on actionable things you can do to just better prepare yourself today. So without further ado, let's bring Andrew back onto the show. Round two, brother. Welcome back.
Hey, thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
By the way, was I the inspiration for the new facial hair? Because you've always been a clean face and looking good. I love it too, by the way.
I am directly in the crosshairs of Corona right now.
Yeah, you are.
It got me.
Yeah. Well, it looks good, so you wear it well.
Well, I appreciate you having me on. It's great to be back, and you guys do a great job. You always put out a lot of great information, so I appreciate the opportunity to be here.
Awesome. We're glad to have you as part of this resource today. So talk a little bit about the firm itself. Talk about McNeese and what you guys kind of had to do, or how you've had to adapt as soon as, we all know mid to late March, it was a Thursday afternoon, we got orders, boom, got to go home, shut down your doors, can't be operating. So talk about what that looked like from your firm's perspective.
Yeah, like a lot of other businesses, it was quick. I would say that fortunately, our firm leadership was as much ahead of the curve as could be. We all, we're sort of subject to the same rules that everyone else in this state is dealing with. Law firms, the physical operations were generally, by and large, deemed to be non-essential. So what that meant for us was that, we had to close our physical locations. Which is difficult for a practice, or for a lot of different practices that sort of rely on, face-to-face meetings and, secretarial admin support, things like that. It was sort of a surprise to all of us, but our team has done a great job. Especially our admin team and our staff have really stepped up and done a great job supporting us. We have a great IT department within the firm who really, had us up and running immediately. There was really not a drop off in service or capability, which has been fantastic. For us, or for at least for my practice group, and I'm a member of our estate planning and tax practice groups at the firm. So, what I do on a day-to-day basis is normally meeting with clients and helping with personal planning, estate planning, tax planning, work with primarily business owners and families. So we're oftentimes dealing and working through business succession planning issues. So for us, obviously we've gone remote now. It's a whole lot more Zoom meetings and Skype meetings and things like that. But within our group, we've stayed quite busy. Estate planning has continued to be an important and active part of our firm. Overall, we have about 140 lawyers. We have 30 different practice groups or so. And so I would say that there's been sort of pockets of busyness within the firm. Estate planning, like I mentioned, has stayed busy. Our labor and employment team represents primarily employers. So, as soon as this hit, they were right there in the thick of it, counseling employers on kind of the ever-changing guidance that was continuing to come out. Our government relations folks were quite busy, especially initially with, how do I get a waiver? Now, if you recall, that was a big deal there for the first couple of weeks to be able to continue to operate.
Yep.
So those groups, as well as our corporate group, have stayed quite busy. Litigation is still surprisingly busy. Courts are closed, and no one's taking depositions or things like that right now, but they're continuing to plug away. So we're fortunate. We have good clients. We work with good people, and we're blessed to continue to be up and running, and blessed to be able to have sort of gone through this as seamlessly as possible so far.
Yeah, great. And I know you ran into some challenges with, if you're actually trying to execute documents, there's notarization that's required and certain things that really couldn't be done for a while. But I think we got beyond that a little bit, or at least either now able to do some face-to-face or some electronic or distant virtual, if you will, notarization is allowed.
So that's been probably I would say the most difficult part of my practice over the past few weeks has been the notarization requirement that we have for certain estate planning documents. At a sort of basic level, wills and trust agreements don't strictly require a notary to be valid and effective. Pennsylvania allows for what we call holographic wills, which basically means that a signature and a date at the bottom will create a valid will. We can get it through probate. It is effective when it's signed and dated by the testator. It's not ideal. A will like that is not self-proving, which means that we have to go through some additional steps in order to submit the will to probate. In essence, we have to find two individuals who can vouch and verify that the signature is that of the testator. But that's sort of a smaller hurdle anyway. The more difficult document to be executed has been a financial power of attorney, and the statute that governs powers of attorney in Pennsylvania does require two witnesses and a notary. There was some activity a few weeks ago to sort of push through virtual notarization, sort of e-doc, e-signing documents and things like that. Most practitioners have I think rightly taken the position that estate planning documents still cannot be electronically notarized. If you read the statute, if you read the electronic notarization guidelines, that method of notarization was intended and is primarily intended for business documents. The idea behind it was always that we're okay with virtual notarization because in the business context we have multiple sets of eyes all looking at the same thing. And so, we have, generally more confidence that a document like that is going to have more scrutiny, more eyes on it. So we're probably going to be more sure that it's okay. Estate planning documents are really just sort of my own statements. So there's no sort of extra set of eyes on it. And so, it's one of the reasons I think initially that the electronic notarization rules were specifically carved out estate plan documents. And so, we've been, like other lawyers trying, getting creative with things. I've heard of lawyers who are, meeting with clients and clients are signing their documents in the, front seat of a car and they're sort of looking through the windshield at their client. Some lawyers have, conference rooms with glass walls that you can still respect your social distancing requirements, but still be in the presence of a person as they sign. So, it's been a challenge. Certainly the law has not quite caught up to the situation that we're in, but, certainly we're working through it and there are some alternatives. And, certainly, the ability to, eventually we will be able to get back together again with clients. And I have a number of clients who've gone ahead and signed their documents. They've printed them out from home and signed them, and we're planning to meet and re-execute as soon as we're able. So, yeah.
Yeah, good. Well, let's talk about some of the things we were talking before this call about some maybe actionable steps people can take right now in either response to this, whether it's crisis related or just the time frame, the time period we're in. But first, this when we go through these times of fear and disease and death and all that, it does bring up a lot of questions in our mind, and there naturally becomes a time for us saying, all right, well, what do I need to button up? What do I need to either update or whatnot? So maybe talk through some things, even at maybe at the most basic level, whether it's an individual or a business, the most basic things that really this kind of environment seems to bring out that people should be taken care of.
Yeah, it's a great thought. It's a great question. So, if nothing else, right now, I think it's safe to say that most of us have at least a little bit more time, maybe, than we used to. So, time at home anyway. So, with that extra time, let's make good use of it. One of the things that we're just recommending to all clients is sort of what we're calling a wellness check for your personal and business documents. Saying, when was the last time that I reviewed my estate planning documents, for example? Estate planning documents generally are recommended to be updated every 3 to 5 years, or if there's a major life event for you. If nothing else, just pull them out and read them. And you may be surprised to see, what you wrote down at the time that you did them. Maybe your kids have grown up since then, and you can change some of the provisions that you set in place for them. The individuals that you named in your documents, your executor or the guardian maybe that you named for your children, have the lives of those individuals changed? So, for example, if you named a sibling who at the time had no children of his own as the guardian of your kids, but that sibling now has three children of their own, maybe we don't want to add your children to their 3 and, have a sort of, too many. So just keeping those things up to date is important. Knowing where your original documents are located is very important as well. In the same sort of context that estate planning hasn't quite caught up to the current times, original documents are very important. The location of those original documents are very important. So generally, copies won't cut it for the really important things. So we want to make sure that you know where your documents are located. Let your agent, let the individuals that you've named in your documents know where they are, and let them know that you've named them.
Yeah.
So if something, heaven forbid happens to you, or if you were to get sick, we want the right people to be able to step right in and act on your behalf.
Yeah, that's not a surprise. A lot of people are usually looking forward to receiving in those kinds of situations. So yeah.
That's exactly right.
Perfect.
Yeah. And, on the business context, reviewing and confirming a buy-sell agreement, for example, is critical. The business changes quite often. The individuals that are involved can change. Maybe you've brought in a new shareholder. Hopefully you've, updated your shareholders agreement or your buy-sell agreement. Maybe the value of your company has increased or decreased in the time since you drafted that document. And maybe you need to adjust the life insurance that you've got that backs the purchase obligation. So, if nothing else, if we have some extra time right now, let's put it to good use. And let's just make sure that our documents are still going to operate the way that we want them to.
Yeah, great tips. I know, again, you think through, all right, well, what if I get sick? What would happen to either my family or the business itself? We can go through periods of time where we can feel maybe invincible, and these times we go through can be a little bit humbling in the thought of, well, maybe, yeah, the likelihood of something happening to me is still maybe pretty low, but it does shed the light, the reality that it could happen. So great tips and suggestions. And
no, that's right. And I always sort of recommend that, look, you're not doing planning for yourself. If something happens to you, if you're dead, you probably don't care. You're doing it for your family. So, let's
cold. That's cold.
Right. But we want to make sure that really that we're sort of setting up your family, in a way that will be, as positive as possible for them if something like that were to happen. So,
yeah. All right. Well, let's talk about now, because given the environment we're in with the unemployment, with market prices, equity prices dropping, revenue dropping, that can maybe create some valuation changes, drops in valuation of certain things. So there are definitely some unique and specific planning opportunities that are present today. So do you want to touch on a few of those that we could consider that are, if we're looking into the future, we're getting out of, all right, what are we going to do for the next 2 months or 3 months? Maybe we're also thinking beyond, well, what could be really valuable 2 years from now, 5 years from now? So touch on some of those opportunities that are present today.
Yeah, that's great. It's a great question. So, there's no question that we've had a significant disruption in our financial markets and in the economy. And so one of the things that we're helping to guide clients through is to say, what are the opportunities that we have that we've been presented with from a planning perspective? So, what can we have sort of this combination of, low asset values or depressed asset values and low interest rates. And so there are some opportunities out there, particularly for clients who are concerned about estate tax exposure, either current or perceived, that may be sort of coming down the road due to some of the changes that are going to occur in the federal tax code. So
we're at is it the highest it's ever been? Or
is the highest? We have the highest exemption amounts that we've ever had in the history of the estate tax. It was doubled with the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act legislation. However, that doubling is only temporary. So, we've talked about this before, but right now an individual can shelter, roughly 11 million and change from the federal estate tax. That number is going to go back down beginning in 2026, regardless of, what happens in that provisions will sunset here in 2026 as of January 1st. And the exemption estimates are that it'll be around 6 million per person. That assumes that Congress and the president do nothing in the interim. And unfortunately, the estate tax is one of the ones that people like to pick on sometimes. It's maybe not the largest revenue generator, but from an optics perspective, it can be one that people like to throw around and say, let's lower those exemptions, even back to Obama era levels. In order to generate revenue for some of the stimulus bills that we've had to pass. So, one of the sort of planning techniques is to say, what can we do to either utilize the exemption while we have it, or what can we do to reduce our any appreciation that may occur with respect to our assets, so that at the time of my passing, I have a lower amount on my balance sheet. I have a smaller estate and therefore less to be taxed. At sort of a basic level, it's a great time to be gifting right now. We have these depressed asset values, and what that means is that you can likely give away more now than you could have 2 months ago without paying additional gift tax. If you make a gift now, the value of the gift is determined as of the date of the gift. And so if you make that gift and, 3 months from now, 6 months from now, that asset goes back up in value, that all that appreciation is happening off of your personal balance sheet and in the hands of the donee. And that's done gift tax free. Whenever you think about gifting, you always want to think about the best vehicle to do it within. So obviously outright gifting is simple. It's I give money or stock to my child or grandchild. But
thank you.
We could also look at, gifting into a trust. Trusts provide a lot of benefits, both from a tax savings perspective, but also from a creditor protection perspective as well. So a beneficiary's creditors aren't able to access generally the assets of the trust. And so we can sort of create a safety net, a creditor protected safety net for a beneficiary. There's also more advanced planning techniques that we're helping clients talk through as well. So because we have low interest rates, planning techniques such as GRATs and charitable trusts are very attractive right now. A GRAT essentially is a trust. It's a grantor retained annuity trust that allows you to retain an annuity interest in the gift that you've made and essentially move appreciation out of your estate gift tax free. The idea is I create a trust. I retain an annuity interest or a right to payments for a period of time, the value of my gift is equal to the actuarial value of the remainder interest in that trust. So without getting too technical, if I make a gift of $1 million into a trust and I retain a right to receive an annuity that has a value on it of $1 million, I've made no gift at all because there's no actuarial value to that remainder interest.
Yeah.
If, however, the assets appreciate faster than the interest rate that I'm required to use when calculating the value of my interest, all of that appreciation occurs gift tax free. And so grants are great for clients who maybe aren't ready to make a gift. So I want to retain an annuity interest. I want to make sure that I get back what I put in it, but I do want to take advantage of the appreciation in the market value that I think is going to occur here, in the next 2 years, for example.
Yeah.
Promissory notes are another great opportunity to take advantage of low interest rates. We have, darn near the closest to, zero interest rates that we're going to see probably in our lifetimes. We can make gifts loans to, children or grandchildren, utilize the lowest interest rate that the IRS will allow us to utilize. That child or grandchild can turn around and invest those loan proceeds in the market, for example. And yes, they have to pay back the loan with interest at that low interest rate, but any appreciation that occurs, with respect to those loan proceeds are going to occur gift tax free. Charitable lead trusts are another great opportunity right now. Charitable lead trust is a trust that I create that either pays me or someone that I choose a certain remainder interest. So it's for the first part of the trust, first term of the trust, I'm paying an annuity interest to a charity. It's a charitable lead trust. So the charity has the lead interest, but the remainder interest is what goes either back to me or to my children or whoever I would select. That type of a trust utilizes an interest rate called the 75/20 rate, which is a rate that the IRS puts out. It's also historically low right now. So what that means is that I can provide a benefit to charity and essentially take advantage of that low interest rate and move more wealth to my children, essentially gift tax free. So there's a lot of opportunities with it to both be charitable and take advantage of the interest rate environment that we're in. So
yeah. So two pieces. I mean, the fact that we have a very high current exemption, federal exemption from the estate side of things, the fact that we're still in a low interest rate environment, but also then if we look at, instead of, and not to say people are necessarily doing this, but instead of kind of sulking or feeling upset about the fact that asset prices have depressed, actually might be some opportunities to take advantage of that depressed price to do some other good, to take advantage of some planning opportunities, which great tips that you brought, which is kind of an interesting way to think about it. And I've said all along, when I'm an optimist, I'm an opportunist, and when I see a crisis, there's definitely negative things about it, but there's always opportunities out there that if we just keep our eyes open and think about, well, how can we use this to do something good, whatever that is. Here we're talking about some estate planning stuff, but there's plenty of business ideas and things that people have done to adapt and create good that'll not just impact today, but also into the future as well. So so great ideas. Appreciate dropping them off. Any parting kind of words of wisdom that you wanted to make sure you got out there before we wrap up?
Yeah, no, it's a great question. Again, I would just say, one of the most important things that we continue to recommend to clients is to make sure that, that the planning maybe that you did in place or put into place years ago is still up to date for you. It always amazes me, sort of how stale a plan can get. And that applies both to personal planning and also to business planning. You wouldn't run your life without, or your business without a business plan. You shouldn't run your life or live your life without an estate plan as well. So just continuing to make sure that your documents are up to date, and also that your advisors are, that you're staying in contact with them. Having a team of advisors that talk together, that talk about you, that share relevant and timely information with you and with their fellow advisors. I really think is critical. Fortunately, we live in a time where, you and I can hop on a Zoom call here and, and be almost face to face and stay active and stay top of mind. So, it's in all things considered, we're fortunate to be dealing with this with all the benefits of current modern technology. So, other than that, we are, we're still working with clients. Our physical locations may be closed, but like I mentioned before, we're quite active both over the phone and video calls. So, certainly happy to talk with, current and new clients about any, planning needs that they may have.
Awesome. Great deal. Well, thank you. And I hope you don't mind me saying, but partway through as you were talking, something hit me. And you talked about you personally, I made mention of your beard, you personally have been in the crosshairs of Corona with respect to that. But if anybody does not say you could rival Hugh Jackman in Wolverine, they are off their rocker, because you got it. And
It's
I know
the hair. I need a haircut.
It's flawless. I wish I could pull it off, but
Well, I appreciate that. I appreciate you having me on here as well.
Yeah, it's been great. So thank you again for returning. I look forward to when we can see each other face to face again and shake hands and do all that good stuff.
That's right. Same to you.
Awesome. So hey, everybody, again, that was Andrew Rusniak, partner at McNeese, Wallace & Nurick, bringing you some very critical and timely suggestions of things we can do today to really button things up, not just for today, but for the next 2, 3, 5 years. Also given us some great opportunities we can maybe explore given the environment we're in today. Instead of just dealing with it, we can look at what's presented to us and maybe take some opportunities to better ourselves, our families, our businesses in the future. So check out their law firm if you need any guidance. They're a great law firm. Andrew, we can vouch for him personally, is a tremendous resource. They have anybody on their team that can handle pretty much any legal matter you need. So be sure to check them out if you're looking for expert guidance. We'll see you next week on another episode of the Center PA Shrimp Tank.
I've been feeling like a shark in a shrimp tank. Big fish, small pond.